We're going to read Chaitanya Charitamrita now.
Okay.
Don't you read the text? Charitamrita.
Just sit here in front of Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Advaita Charitamrita, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Advaita Charitamrita, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. So now we're on Madhya Lila chapter 19, text 155. The Lord instructs Srila Rupa Goswami. And we're going out live on camera. The creeper greatly expands in the Goloka Vrindavan planet, and there it produces the fruit of love of Krishna. Although remaining in the material world, the gardener regularly sprinkles the creeper with the water of hearing and chanting. Purport. In Goloka Vrindavan, the devotees have very intimate relationships with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The devotee engages in the Lord's service with great ecstatic love. Such love was exhibited personally by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his teachings to the people of the material world. The fruit of the creeper, of the devotional creeper, is a pure desire to serve and please the senses of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishnanya Priti Ichadari Prema Namar. In the spiritual world, one has no desire other than to please the senses of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The conditioned soul within the material world can neither understand nor appreciate how a pure devotee in the material world can render confidential service to the Lord out of feelings of ecstatic love, and always engage in pleasing the Supreme Lord's senses. Although seen within this material world, the pure devotee always engages in the confidential service of the Lord. An ordinary neophyte devotee cannot realize this. Therefore it is said, Vaishnavara Kriya Mudra Vigneya Ujaya Haya. The activities of a pure Vaishnava cannot be understood even by a learned scholar in the material world. Every living entity is wandering within this universe in different species and on different planetary systems according to its fruits of activities. Out of many millions of living entities, one may be fortunate enough to receive the seed of the Bhakti Lata, the creeper of devotional service. By the grace of the spiritual master and Krishna, one nourishes the Bhakti Lata by regularly sprinkling it with the water of Shravan and Kirtan, hearing and chanting. In this way, the seed of the Bhakti Lata sprouts and grows up and up through the whole universe until it penetrates the covering of the material universe and reaches the spiritual world. The Bhakti Lata continues to grow until it reaches the topmost planetary system, Goloka Vrindavan, where Krishna lives. There, the creeper takes shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord, and that is its final destination. At that time, the creeper begins to grow the fruits of ecstatic love of God. It is the duty of the devotee who nourishes the creeper to be very careful. It is said that the watering of the creeper must continue. Ihanmali Seche Nitya Shravana Jara. It is not that at a certain stage one can stop chanting and hearing and become a mature devotee. If one stops, one certainly falls down from devotional service. Although one may be very much exalted in devotional service, he should not give up the watering process of Shravan and Kirtan. If one gives up that process, it is due to an offense. This is described in the following verse. If the devotee commits an offense at the feet of a Vaishnava while cultivating the creeper of devotional service in the material world, his offense is compared to a mad elephant that uproots the creeper and breaks it. In this way, the leaves of the creeper are dried up. Purport. One's devotional attitude increases in the association of a Vaishnava. By his personal example, Narottam Das Thakur stresses that a devotee must always remember to please his predecessor, Acharya. The Goswamis are represented by one's spiritual master. One cannot be an Acharya or spiritual master without following strictly in the disciplic succession of the Acharyas. One who is actually serious about advancing in devotional service should desire only to satisfy the previous Acharyas. Echai Gosaina Yara, Muni Taradas. One should always think of oneself as a servant of the Acharya. In thinking this, one should live in the society of Vaishnavas. However, if one thinks that he has become very mature and can live separate from the association of Vaishnavas, and thus gives up all the regular principles due to offending a Vaishnava, one's position becomes very dangerous. Offenses against the holy name are explained in Adi Lila, chapter 8, verse 24. Giving up the regulative principles and living according to one's whims is compared to a mad elephant, which by force uproots the bhakti lata and breaks it to pieces. In this way, the bhakti lata shrivels up. Such an offense is especially created when one disobeys the instructions of the spiritual master. This is called Guru Avagnya. The devotee must therefore be very careful not to commit offenses against the spiritual master by disobeying his instructions. As soon as one is deviated from the instructions of the spiritual master, the uprooting of the bhakti lata begins, and gradually all the leaves dry up. The gardener must defend the creeper by fencing it all around, so that the powerful elephant of offenses may not enter. Purport. While the bhakti lata creeper is growing, the devotee must protect it by fencing it all around. The neophyte devotee must be protected by being surrounded by pure devotees. In this way, he will not give up the maddened elephant a chance to uproot his bhakti lata creeper. When one associates with non-devotees, the maddened elephant is set loose. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has said, Asat Sangha Tyag, E Vaishnava Achara. The first business of a Vaishnava is to give up the company of non-devotees. A so-called mature devotee, however, commits a great offense by giving up the company of pure devotees. The human being is a social animal, and if one gives up the society of pure devotees, he must associate with non-devotees, asat sangha. By contacting non-devotees and engaging in non-devotional activities, a so-called mature devotee will fall victim to the mad elephant offense. Whatever growth has taken place is quickly uprooted by such an offense. One should therefore be very careful to defend the creeper by fencing it in, that is, by following the regulative principles and associating with pure devotees. Even if one thinks that there are many pseudo-devotees or non-devotees in the Krishna conscious society, still, one should stick to the society. If one thinks the society's members are not pure devotees, one can keep direct company with the spiritual master. And if there is any doubt, one should consult the spiritual master. However, unless one follows the spiritual master's instructions concerning the regulative principles and chanting and hearing the holy name of the Lord, one cannot become a pure devotee. By one's mental concoctions, one falls down. By associating with non-devotees, one breaks the regulative principles and is thereby lost. In Chaitanya of Srila Rupa Goswami, it is said, one's devotional service is spoiled when it becomes too entangled in the following 6 activities: eating more than necessary or collecting more funds than required, over-endeavoring for mundane things that are very difficult to attain, talking unnecessarily about mundane subject matters, practicing the scriptural rules and regulations only for the sake of following them and not for the sake of spiritual advancement, or rejecting the rules and regulations of the scripture and working independently or whimsically, associating with worldly-minded persons who are not interested in Krishna consciousness, and 6, being greedy for mundane achievement. Sometimes unwanted creepers, such as the creepers of desires for material enjoyment and liberation from the material world, grow along with the creeper of devotional service. The varieties of such unwanted creepers are unlimited. Some unnecessary creepers growing in with the bhakti creeper are the creepers of behavior unacceptable for those trying to attain perfection: diplomatic behavior, animal killing, mundane profiteering, mundane adoration, and mundane importance. All of these are unwanted creepers. Purport. There is a certain pattern of behavior prescribed for those actually trying to become perfect. In our Krishna consciousness movement, we advise our students not to eat meat, not to gamble, not to engage in illicit sex, and not to indulge in intoxication. People who indulge in these activities can never become perfect. Therefore, these regular principles are for those interested in becoming perfect and going back to Godhead. Kutinati, or diplomatic behavior, cannot satisfy the Atma or the soul. It cannot even satisfy the body or the mind. The culprit mind is always suspicious. Therefore, our dealings should always be straightforward and approved by Vedic authorities. If we treat people diplomatically or duplicitously, our spiritual advancement is obstructed. Jiva himsana refers to the killing of animals or to envy of other living entities. The killing of poor animals is undoubtedly due to the envy of those animals. The human form is meant for the understanding of Krishna consciousness, Tato Brahma Jignasa, for inquiring about the Supreme Brahman. In the human form, everyone has a chance to understand the Supreme Brahman. The so-called leaders of human society do not know the real aim of human life and are therefore busy with economic development. This is misleading. Every state and every society is busy trying to improve the quality of eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. This human form of life is meant for more than these four animal principles. Eating, sleeping, mating, and defending are problems found in the animal kingdom, and the animals have solved their problems without difficulty. Why should human society be so busy trying to solve these problems? The difficulty is that people are not educated to understand this simple philosophy. They think that advancement of civilization means increasing sense gratification. There are many religious propagandists who do not know how the ultimate problems of life can be solved. And they also try to educate people in a form of sense gratification. This is also jiva himsana. Real knowledge is not given, and religionists mislead the general population. As far as material profits are concerned, one should know that whatever material profit one has must be abandoned at the time of death. Unfortunately, people do not know that there is life after death. Therefore, mundane people waste their time amassing material profit which has to be left behind at the time of death. Such profit has no eternal benefit. Similarly, adoration by mundane people is valueless because after death one has to accept another body. Material adoration and titles are decorations that cannot be carried over to the next body. In the next life, everything is forgotten. All these obstructions have been described in this verse as unwanted creepers. They simply present obstacles for the real creeper, the Bhakti Lata. One should be very careful to avoid all these unwanted things. Sometimes these unwanted creepers look exactly like Bhakti Lata creeper. They appear to be of the same size and the same species when they were packed together with the Bhakti Lata creeper. But in spite of this, the creepers are called Uprashaka. A pure devotee can distinguish between the Bhakti Lata creeper and the mundane creeper, and he is very alert to distinguish them and keep them separate. If one does not distinguish between the Bhakti Lata creeper and the other creepers, the sprinkling of water is misused because the other creepers are nourished while the Bhakti Lata creeper is curtailed. Purport. If one chants the Hare Krishna mantra while committing offenses, these unwanted creepers will grow. One should not take advantage of chanting the Hare Krishna mantra for some material profit. As mentioned in verse 159, the unwanted creepers have been described by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakur. He states that if one hears and chants without trying to give up offenses, one becomes materially attached to sense gratification. One may also desire freedom from material bondage, like the Mayavadis, or one may become attached to the yoga siddhis and desire wonderful yogic powers. If one is attached to wonderful material activities, one is called siddhi lobi, greedy for material perfection. One may also be victimized by diplomatic or crooked behavior, or one may associate with women for illicit sex. One may make a show of devotional service like the Prakita Sahajas, or one may try to support his philosophy by joining some caste or identifying himself with a certain dynasty, claiming a monopoly on spiritual advancement. Thus, with the support of family tradition, one may become a pseudo-guru or so-called spiritual master. One may become attached to the four sinful activities, illicit sex, intoxication, gambling, and meat eating, or one may consider a Vaishnava to belong to a mundane caste or creed. One may think this is a Hindu Vaishnava or this is a European Vaishnava. European Vaishnavas are not allowed to enter the temple. In other words, one may consider Vaishnavas in terms of birth, thinking one a Brahmin Vaishnava, another a Sudra Vaishnava, or another a Malecha Vaishnava, and so on. One may also try to carry out a professional business by means of chanting the Hare Krishna mantra or reading the Srimad Bhagavatam, or one may try to increase his monetary strength by illegal means. Also, one may become a cheap Vaishnava by trying to chant in a secluded place for material adoration. Or one may desire mundane reputation by making compromises with non-devotees concerning one's philosophy or spiritual life. Or one may become a supporter of a hereditary caste system. All these pitfalls of personal sense gratification, just to cheat some innocent people, one makes a show of advanced spiritual life and becomes known as a sadhu, mahatma, or religious person. All this means that the so-called devotee has become victimized by all these unwanted creepers, and that the real creeper, the Bhaktilata, has been stunted. As soon as an intelligent devotee sees an unwanted creeper growing beside the original creeper, he must cut it down instantly. Then the real creeper, the Bhaktilata, grows nicely, returns home back to Godhead, and seeks shelter under the lotus feet of Krishna. Purport. If one is misled by unwanted creepers and is victimized, he cannot make progress back to Godhead. Rather, he remains within the material world and engages in activities having nothing to do with pure devotional service. Such a person may be elevated to the higher planetary systems, but because he remains within the material world, he is subjected to the threefold material miseries. When the fruit of devotional service becomes ripe and falls down, the gardener tastes the fruit and thus takes advantage of the creeper and reaches the desire tree of the lotus feet of Krishna in Goloka Vrindavan. There, the devotee serves the lotus feet of the Lord, which are compared to a wish-fulfilling tree. With great bliss, he tastes the juice of the fruit of love and becomes eternally happy. The word tahan indicates that in the spiritual world, one can taste the juice of the fruit of devotional service and thus become blissful. To taste the fruit of devotional service in Goloka Vrindavan is the highest perfection of life. And in the presence of such perfection, the four material perfections, religion, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation, are very insignificant achievements. Purport. The highest achievement attained by the jnanis or impersonalists is becoming one with the Supreme, generally known as moksha, liberation. The highest achievements of the yogis are the 8 material perfections, which is anima, lagima, and prapti. Yet, these are nothing compared to the eternal bliss of the devotee who returns back to Godhead and tastes the fruit of devotional service to the lotus feet of the Lord. The material perfections, even up to the point of liberation, are very insignificant in comparison. Therefore, the pure devotee is never interested in such things. His only interest is in perfection his devotional service to the Lord. The pleasure of the impersonalists, monist philosophers, is condemned in the following verse, which is also found in Srila Rupa Goswami's Lalita Madhava. As long as there is not the slightest fragrance of pure love of Krishna, which is the perfect medicinal herb for controlling Lord Krishna within the heart, the opulences of the material perfections known as the siddhis, Brahminical perfections, Satya, Sama, Titiksha, and so on, the trance of the yogis, and the monistic bliss of Brahman all seem wonderful for men. Purport. There are different types of perfections known as siddhi branch, and also the perfections of achieving Brahminical qualifications, yogic trance, and merging into the Supreme. All these material perfections are certainly very attractive for a mundane person, but their brilliance exists only as long as one does not take to devotional service. Devotional service can control the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the supreme controller of all universal affairs. The 5 rasas or mellows in the transcendental world are practiced by the inhabitants of Goloka Vrindavan in neutrality, servitorship, friendship, parental affection, and conjugal love. All these please the Lord so much that he is controlled by the devotee. For instance, Mother Yashoda was so advanced in devotional service that Krishna agreed to be controlled by her stick. In other words, the 5 principal mellows are so great and glorious that they are able to control the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the material world, however, the so-called siddhis or perfections manifest their brightness only as long as one is not interested in devotional service. In other words, the perfection of the karmis, jnanis, yogis, and others remains attractive only as long as one does not come to the point of devotional service, which is so great and significant that it can control the supreme controller, Krishna. When one is situated in pure devotional service, he develops love of Godhead. Therefore, let me describe some of the symptoms of pure devotional service. Purport. In Bhagavad Gita 1855, it is said, Bhaktimam Anujanati Yaman Chas Jasmin Tattva. One cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead in truth unless he takes to devotional service. When the first-class devotional service develops, one must be devoid of all material desires, knowledge obtained by monistic philosophy and fruit of action. The devotee must constantly serve Krishna favorably as Krishna desires. Purport. This verse is also found in Srila Rupa Goswami's Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. As we can understand from Bhagavad Gita 9:34, 1865, the Supreme Personality of Godhead wants everyone to think of him always. Manmana Bhavamad Bhakto. Everyone should become his devotee, not the devotee of some demigod. Everyone should engage in his devotional service, including archan, deity worship in the temple. Manmana Bhavamad Bhakto Majjadimam Namaskuru. Everyone should offer obeisances from moment to moment to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. These are the desires of the Supreme Lord, and one who fulfills his desires favorably is actually a pure devotee. Krishna wants everyone to surrender unto him, and devotional service means preaching this gospel all over the world. The The Lord says openly in Bhagavad Gita, Nacha tasman manushe su kaschame priyatartamaha. One who preaches the gospel of Bhagavad Gita for the benefit of all is most dear to Krishna. The Bhagavad Gita is spoken by the Lord so that human society can be perfectly organized from all angles of vision, politically, socially, economically, philosophically, and religiously. From any point of view, human society can be reformed by the Krishna consciousness movement. Therefore, one who spreads this philosophy of Krishna consciousness for the benefit of all conditioned souls in the universe is perfect in pure devotional service. The criterion that a devotee must know what Krishna wants him to do. This understanding can be achieved through the medium of a spiritual master who is a bona fide representative of Krishna. Srila Rupa Goswami advises Ado Guru Ashrayam. One who is serious in wanting to render pure devotional service to the Lord must take shelter of a spiritual master who comes into disciplic succession from Krishna. Evam parampara praptam imam rajarshayo vidu. Without accepting a bona fide spiritual master coming into disciplic succession, one cannot find out the real purpose of devotional service. Therefore, one has to accept the shelter of a bona fide spiritual master and agree to be directed by him. The first business of a pure devotee is to satisfy his spiritual master, whose only business is to spread Krishna consciousness. And if one can satisfy the spiritual master, Krishna is automatically satisfied. Yasya prasada bhagavat prasada. This is the success of devotional service. This is the meaning of the word anukulyena, that is, favorable devotional service to the Lord. A pure devotee has no plans other than those for the Lord's service. He is not interested in attaining success in mundane activities. He simply wants success in the progress of devotional service. For a devotee, there cannot be worship of others or demigods to worship. A pure devotee does not engage himself in such pseudo-devotional service. He is interested only in satisfying Krishna. If one lives only for the satisfaction of Krishna, it does not matter whether he belongs to this order of life or that order of life. One's only business should be to satisfy Krishna. This process is completely manifest in the activities of the Krishna consciousness movement. It has been actually proved that the entire world can accept devotional service without failure. One simply has to follow the instructions of the representative of Krishna. A pure devotee must not cherish any desire other than to serve Krishna. He should not offer worship to the demigods or to mundane personalities. He should not cultivate artificial knowledge which is devoid of Krishna consciousness, and he should not engage himself in anything other than Krishna conscious activities. One must engage all one's purified senses in the service of the Lord. This is the favorable execution of Krishna conscious activities. These activities are called Suddha Bhakti, pure devotional service. If one renders such pure devotional service, he develops his original love for Krishna, and in due course of time, in Vedic literatures like the Pancharatras and Srimad Bhagavatam, these symptoms are described. Purport. One has to develop his devotional service under the direction of a pure devotee, the spiritual master, and in accordance with the Vedic directions given in the Pancharatra and Bhagavat system. The Pancharatra system includes methods of temple worship, and the Bhagavat system includes the spreading of Krishna conscious philosophy through the recitation of Srimad Bhagavatam and the discussion of philosophy with people who are interested. Through discussion, one can create an interest and understanding of the Pancharatra and Bhagavat system. Bhakti, or devotional service, means engaging all our senses in the service of the Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the master of all the senses, Rishikesh. When the spirit soul renders service unto the Supreme, there are two side effects.